Hello, welcome to this MSP MVP Mentorship Program presentation. My name is Mayur Tendulkar, and today's topic is basically tips for building great Windows Phone applications. So, a little bit about me. I'm a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in Windows Phone Development category, awarded in last year, April. I work with a company called as 7Cs in India as a mobile consultant. So I build applications for most of the time for consumers, but I sometimes build application for consumers as well as a hobby. Along with my friends and other MVPs, I run a community user group called as Pune User Group, where we host different events like developer conferences, monthly community meets where we talk about different technologies. So if you are in Pune or nearby and want to attend some of these meetings, please visit puneusergroup.org. If you want to find more about me, you can go to about.me/Tendulkar. So the agenda for this presentation is pretty simple. What we are going to do is I have 7 tips for building great Windows Phone applications. These are from my experiences and observations that I have seen on within different Windows Phone applications, and I'm going to share here with you. I believe that as you want to start with Windows Phone application development, you have some sort of idea which you want to implement as a mobile application. Let's say you have an idea to build an application or to solve a problem of finding a place in your city. Let's say you want to find a library in your city. So this is one idea that you have. So I believe at least one idea you have that you want to convert it into a mobile application. So now we can start with the tips that I want to share with you, which can convert your idea to an application and can help you to build successful applications. So remember that it all starts with the name. So even I believe Shakespeare said that what's in the name, it starts by its signature just below that saying. So why it starts with the name? Because if I go to a Windows Phone app list and if I see all the applications, the first number of applications that I see are basically started with a number or special characters. So whenever I go to app list, these are the first applications that I can see and I can launch. So there are nice applications like 627.am or 6tag or 9gag, which are perfect in user experience, and they serve a nice utility. So if we go to 627.a, if you see, the main reason why this application is there is just to give you an alarm functionality. There are some other things involved in it, like it allows you to do a to-do list. It also shows you the weather condition, weather forecast. But the main aim of this application is to have alarm at 6:27 a.m. So this is the main reason for this application. But if you see the application, see the user experience, you will fall in love with this application. This is the perfect alarm application that I have seen. The other application is 6tag, which is basically an Instagram client for Windows Phone. So there are like Instagram came late to Windows Phone, but there were different Instagram clients already available. But 6tag is still the best and most popular Instagram client. If you see the user interface, if you see the flow that this application has put into, you will again love this application. So whenever you are starting building any application, make sure that you have a name which is unique and people will remember that name for a long time. Take any example. So Twitter, right? Twitter is also a unique name, or a Facebook. In India, if you are browsing the application markets, you will see that there is an application called as Zomato, which gives you idea about different food joints. There is another application called as Burp, right? So there are different applications, but they have a unique name in it. So whenever you are starting building application, make sure that you have a unique name to give to your application. This is the first thing. The second thing is you need to architect it well. You need to envision the application. So if suppose I want to give you one example. So when I started building mobile applications, it was Windows Mobile 5.0. The first application that I created had around like 30 different screens. It asked user to give a lot of details, and I wanted to give it to one of my friend who was an information architect, and I wanted his opinion on it. So when I gave it to him, he modified the application and gave it back to me with just 3 screens. Why? Because most of the time people are reluctant to give all the information on mobile screen. So make sure that you are planning your application wisely. Make sure that you are not having more than 3 navigation screens. So like, let's say I open Facebook. I shouldn't require more than 3 tabs to go into any particular detail. Like if I open a Facebook, I can go to notification, click on it, and I see the detailed information about that notification, like somebody has commented on my picture or something like that. So make sure that there are no more than 3 actions, okay, when you are building an application. To do that, you can architect it very well. So there are different tools which allows you to do this kind of architecture or do this kind of wireframing. I will quickly show you one of the tools that I have. So I use this cool tool called as Wireframe Sketcher. So I can go to File, New, Wireframe Sketcher, and here I can select different platforms. So I select a Windows Phone. I give it a name as Hello Windows Phone. Okay, and say Finish. Let me quickly see if I have turned off the notifications. Okay. So what it does, it gives me a nice looking mockup. So I can go to text. I can drag and drop a text field. Okay. I can drag and drop a label on top of it, and I can see how actually my application will look like when it will be ready. So whenever you are building any application, make sure that you have some wireframes ready. Okay, and then you can convert these wireframes to your application. This is like giving you an idea how actually this application will look like. So if suppose you are building application for yourself, probably you would want to go ahead and directly build it. But what if you want to build it for your clients? So in this case, you need your client's opinion about it. So rather than directly going ahead and starting with Visual Studio and designing the application, and then the client coming up to you and saying, okay, you need to change this and that, and spending a lot of efforts again, what you can do is you can go to this kind of tools and start decorating it. So if suppose you don't have this tool, there are other tools that I will just show you which perform the same thing. So there are like 20 plus free Windows Phone mockup and wireframing resources available. So I will share all the links with you on the event page. So you can see there are different mockup tools which allow you to do this. Visio is one of them. Visio is available as an extension to Office. There are different stencils available. There is also a stencil for Photoshop. So you can download the PSD template and start working on it. There is also a nice guidance given about the Windows Phone interaction called as windowsphonepatterns.net. So here, this is a pretty new site which actually tells you about the different navigation patterns in case of user interface. So if I suppose click on this, dealing with data, how data should be represented. So you can see how users should be able to see the information and how, let's say, I want to show that status bar, how I can deal with the status bar. So there is an entire discussion going around and there is entire guidance available. So you can follow this and you can see where exactly you should show the status bar in portrait mode, in landscape mode, right? So follow these guidelines when you are building a Windows Phone application. If suppose you don't have a Visio, you don't have this kind of tool, you can still do it in PowerPoint. So PowerPoint also has this feature called as storyboarding, which can allow you to build mock-up kind of stuff. And if suppose you don't have any tool at all, you don't have PowerPoint or anything, the best tool that you can always have is pen and paper. Go ahead and draw your sketches and see how your application will actually look like on the screen. So this is about the architecture. So one thing that I learned as a developer is keep it simple, stupid. There's a KISS formula. So you need to make sure that your application can be used by anybody. So you need to make sure that it is easy to use and it is to be very simple. So if suppose I go ahead and create my application and give it to my end user to use it, so it is like in a debug mode itself. So you will see that, okay, on the right hand side there is the debug information which is there. It is giving me frame rate counter and everything. Okay, so user doesn't know what is going around over there. The user interface is totally ugly over here. So here on the left hand side we have labels, on the right hand side we have different text boxes. And this is like a registration screen. If you see, it says register new user. However, I'm asking a hell lot of information on the first screen itself. So if suppose my application is there, a user downloads that application and starts using it, but before using, he needs to go ahead and fill this form. And whenever he will see this form, he will say that, okay, boss, if it is asking too much information, I don't want to provide all that information right now. And without providing this information, user can't go ahead. So he will just keep this application. So just make sure that you are not asking too much information to the user unless and until it is really, really required. Okay. So if suppose you see this Facebook login screen, it asks for a email address or phone number and a password. And if suppose user is new, just click on the sign up page. And when you go to the sign up page, it just asks for first name, last name, birthday, password, that's it, or email ID. So that too, it is not compulsory. You can provide it later on. So that is the beauty. So make sure that you are not just asking too much information at the first instance itself. User will probably spend 2 or 3 seconds to your application. So make best use of those 2 or 3 seconds and allow him to utilize your application in the best way that you can. Okay. So this is the third tip that I want to share with you. The fourth one is build it around theme. So whenever you are building any application, so by default there are 2 themes that are provided with Windows Phone. One is a dark and one is light. Apart from that, there are also different accent colors. So what actually happens is, if suppose you have an application and if suppose it is utilizing a dark theme, so even if user is using a light theme, if suppose the application is launched, it will be automatically blacked out. It will be automatically showing a dark theme into that application. That is good. But I'm not talking about that kind of theme over here. What I'm saying is, when you are building an application, make sure that you have one set of style which you can apply to your application and all the pages across your application. So if we talk about the cocktail flow, you will see that they have used a very nice color scheme over here. So they have kind of gray background and black application bars. The main portions are shown in a color. So on the second screen, you can see that selected items are in a color and unchecked are basically in a grayed out. But you will see that across this whole application, they have selected a color scheme and they have stick to it. So don't just randomize the color scheme. So like first page is in red, second page is in green, third page is in yellow. Don't do that. Have a theme and build your application around that theme. So if suppose I am building an application for a food joint in Pune, what I will do is, what is famous in Pune, let's say a Shanwar Wada, a place. So what I will do is, I will have the Shanwar Wada background and then I will show different foot joints over there. I will definitely keep the opacity very low so that it will look like a transparent page. So what actually happens is when Pune a traveler comes to Pune and he's like, okay, and he's browsing the application, it feels like, okay, he's at like home. He's native to Pune and he's using that application. So another application that I want to talk about is Zomato, where you can see that they have used a consistent user interface across all the pages, right? So don't just go ahead and randomize all the stuff, but here you can plan out very well, plan your application and build it around a theme. So here also you can use the tip that I gave you about the architecting and using different wireframing tools. So using wireframing tools, you can put colors to it as well, and you will see how your application will look like, and then go ahead and start building your application. The fifth tip that I want to give you is follow the design principles. I have been mentoring a lot of MSPs, and I have seen that they are good at developing applications, but they need to work on designing the application. I have seen a lot of people actually who are great while developing an application, but designing, which is actually takes a little bit of effort. So if you go ahead to Windows Phone Store and if you see for, let's say, an application for Wikipedia, you will find thousands of applications, but there is one application which is unique, built by Rudy Yoon. He has won, I guess, the first prize in one of the competition for that application, which is unique. So if you see that application, you will realize that, okay, it is not just yet another Wikipedia application, but the user experience that has given to which is provided by that application is unique. So whenever you are building an application, you need to follow the design principles, the design guidelines that Microsoft has provided. The first one is definitely pride in craftsmanship. So whenever you are building an application, make sure that you are giving your attention to each and every pixel. You are focusing on every minor detail. I don't know if you are aware of, in Windows 8, if you go to the right hand side, let me just quickly go out of this presentation mode. If you go to the right hand side, one pixel is reserved for this charm. You can say, so if suppose I bring my mouse pointer over here, I see a charm. Similarly, every corner has one pixel reserved for bringing up this menu. So you need to have your application pixel perfect, right? So to do that, make sure that you are putting a lot of efforts to it and take pride in building that application. So I have seen a lot of people using MS Paint to design their application logos. There is no harm in it, but what actually happens is the quality of that logos is not that good. So I recommend one tool called as Perfect Tile. So let me just quickly minimize everything to show you how this tool actually works. So this is the tool that I have. So what I do is I go for a particular file, let's say this. I select background, let's say I want magenta or something like that. Okay. What kind of template I want to use, what kind of image size I can override the background, I can override the margins, and I have different sort of options over here how actually the logo should look like. So let's say PUG, Pune User Group. So now I can say create images, and it will create different images for me. So I can just say save, new folder, let's say desktop, within the desktop itself. So you will see that, okay, all these images are created for me. So don't spend time in Photoshop or MS Paint, rather use these kind of tools which can give you a boost in developing your application, and these images and everything will be pixel perfect. So you can just go to your application and select this image, select these images as a different application logos, right? So use these kind of tools which can help you a lot while building applications. So if suppose you don't want to buy that tool, there is Windows Phone icon maker available on Codeplex. So just search for it and you will find it. The second one is be fast and fluid. So in Windows Phone, if you go to the mail application and if suppose you select 10 different mail items and you say delete, there is a nice flow that is going around. You can see that animation is there. You need to have a feedback. You need to give a feedback which needs to be fast and fluid. So on a phone, if there is a button, you click on that button and you see a feedback that the button is tilted, right? If suppose user is launching your application, how the application is launched, how page navigation is done, right? So there are different types of applications, different types of animations which are there. So you need to make sure that your application is fast. There are guidelines about it, like how, what is the time, in what time your application should start, at what time, within what time duration your application should terminate. So there are guidelines about it. So you need to follow those guidelines. So if suppose I have an application and there is a button on a page, and if I click on it, there is a web service call is going around, and if suppose a user clicks on that button and that web service is taking too much time and I am not giving any feedback to the user will get frustrated. So make sure that you are showing something to user and your application is fast enough to handle all the responses that application is getting. So make sure that your application is following these fast and fluid guidelines. So if you want to use the animation framework, there is Windows Phone Toolkit, which is available on Codeplex, which you can download and integrate into your application. And you can use different kind of animations for your controls. Like let's say when you are transitioning between different pages, what transition effects you need to use. If suppose user clicks on or taps on a button, what kind of effects, animation effects should be shown. So you can control this using the Windows Phone control toolkit, which is available on Codeplex. When I was in college, I remember on my desktop, I used to have a browser with a lot of toolbars installed on it. So one toolbar was, let's say, MSN search toolbar, Yahoo search toolbar, Google search toolbar. There were like a lot of toolbars on the browser. Eventually what happened? The main page size was very less, right? And there were a lot of toolbars which were hogging up the entire screen size. Even if you go to, let's say, old Visual Studio Design, you will see that there were a lot of toolbars. But if you go to Visual Studio 2012, let me just quickly show you. See, there are just these two toolbars which are there. If you go to, let's say, Office, let me start, Word or something like that. If you go to Word, you will see that I can just minimize the ribbon control and I have the entire screen for me, right? So this is the beauty. This is the one design guideline that is there. So what does it say? That do more with less. So this design principle has some guidelines like you need to have content over Chrome. So don't waste time designing the Chrome, that is the body for your application. So don't have buttons on screen, don't have menu items on screen. For that reason, you have an application bar, right? So don't just hog up the entire screen with the content, which is not so important. Rather, which is most important, show it to the user. The next design principle is authentically digital. So when you are building an application, make sure that you are using some push notifications. So if suppose you are just building a static application, which is just showing some information to the user, it is not going to help. Rather, if suppose, let's say, again, the food joint application, if suppose it is just showing me all the food joints which are available in the area, it's okay. But if suppose I am going to that particular area and it tells me, okay, at this particular food joint, you can have a nice pizza, or this particular food joint is famous for burgers, something like that, and it is notifying me about it. So that would be interesting, right? So make sure that whenever you are building an application, you are considering these kind of options like push notifications. Another option is another principle is use typography. So by default, Windows provides you a Sego UI font. But if suppose you want to go ahead and change it, okay, go ahead, change it. But don't use fonts which are troublesome to read. Okay, don't use comic fonts or something like that. Okay, so there are like design principles which are there, which you need to follow when you are building a phone application. Now, when you build a mobile application, uh, there can be some exceptions, right? So let's say you build an application which is like a calculator, but sometimes you forget to envision that, okay, if suppose what happens if suppose user is dividing by zero, there can be an exception, divide by zero exception. There can be exception that can occur, and your application may crash. But show some information to the user that this is what is happening and I can go ahead, right? So when your application just exits, it creates a wrong impression on the user. So whenever you are building any application, make sure that you are catching all sort of exceptions. Okay. If suppose your application is already in the store and user are already using it, and if suppose it crashes on the user's phone, you can see a crash report on the dev center. Go to dev center and you will see a crash analysis over there, and it can give you an entire detail of stack trace, what actually happened over there. If you want to have more information, there are tools like Bugsense or Raygun to perform detailed report analysis. I will quickly show you how you can. So let me just see. There is this Bugsense, and there is Raygun.io. These are the two sites which allow you to do a complete crash analysis. So it gives you kind of all the features. So if suppose the application is crashed on the user's machine, you can see all the reporting, and you can see all the detailed information about your application and why it is crashed over here. Okay, so these are available across different platforms, and best thing is these are like a NuGet packages which you can go ahead and just install in your application, refer in your application, and start using it. These are pretty easy to use, and I highly recommend using these kind of tools to provide a nice user experience. So don't just crash on me, and go ahead, see what is the wrong thing that is happening in your application, catch those exceptions and make sure that they will not happen again. Update your application, give frequent updates, and people will like it actually. Now, listen to the feedback. That is the most important thing that I want to show you, tell you. So if suppose you build an application and you put it onto the store, okay, good. But unless and until you listen to the feedback, and sometimes users may give you a review that, okay, this is good, but I want to have a nice feature. If you implement this feature, it will add more value to it. So if you go to, so this is one application that I have created. It has good ratings, but one review is 5-star for design, one less for not having a copy paste feature. So in my application, this is a Chanakya application. What I did, it just shows quotes from Chanakya. So it shows the quotes, but and if suppose I want to share it, I have often given option to share it on email or SMS. But what if user want to modify it and send it via some other medium, right? So in that case, there is no option to copy. So it is so listen to this feedback and implement it. Okay, so I will quickly show you how you can go ahead and use these different kind of tools. So I have also written a blog about what kind of tools that you can use. So there is this one phone theme manager NuGet package which is available. So if suppose you want to design your application with a specific theme, okay, and a specific accent color. So accent color is one thing which is there on phone. So let's say I have selected a dark theme, that is a black background, and the accent color is red. So in all the applications, whenever there is important thing is that application want to highlight, it will be shown in accent color. But if suppose you want to build an application which will have a light theme and a different accent color, you can use this particular phone theme manager NuGet package. You can use it in your application. Another tip that I want to give you is when you are building an application, if you see in India, there are like more than 10 different languages which are spoken and which are used in daily life. So in this case, if suppose you are building an application for a user which is staying in a village and who doesn't know English, it makes sense to use the multilingual app kit and localize and globalize your application. So, the multilingual app toolkit allows you to give string English language strings, and it can help you to convert these strings to different languages. It uses Bing Translator kind of service which allows you to do that, and it allows you, it gives you a resource file which you can include in your project and use the converted strings. Another tool that I want to show you is SyncVision Metro Studio. In Windows Phone, you need to include a lot of different icons, right? So Windows Phone has different sets of different set of modern styled icons. So if you want to use these kind of icons, there is a free tool called as SyncVision Metro Studio. I will quickly show you. So if you go ahead over here and let's say you want to find an icon for Twitter, click on it and you can select a particular logo that you want. You can select the background color, accent color, background color, or the foreground color and the icon style. That is how you want it, circular or square. You can set the size. You can set the padding, and once it is done, you can export it as a PNG or you can export it as a XAML. So I recommend using XAML because you can get the part data and use it in your application. Why it is important to use XAML and not the PNG file? If suppose you want your application to scale out, okay, so this is like a vector data which is there. So if suppose your application is running on full HD resolution or half HD 720p resolution or something like that, the vector graphics will take care of everything, and you don't need to worry about how the icon will look like on different resolutions. So this is one more tool. I just talked about the perfect tile, but there are different tools like if Windows Phone emulator, skin switcher. So you have built an application and you want to see how actually it will look like on different devices. Let's say you want to test it how it will look like on 1520, which is a kind of huge phone, right? Or how it will look like on a 520 device. So there are different skins available for your emulator. You can't go ahead and buy all the devices, but you can have an emulator and you can go ahead and test it out on how it will look like on different emulators. So go ahead and test it on different size emulators. So if suppose I create a new Windows Phone application, just a minute, it is just creating the application. There are some nice Visual Studio extensions as well that I want to talk about, but I will just blog about it and I will give you a reference over here. So the one tool is indent guide. So you can see there is nice indents that are here, right? So it tells me where actually my XAML is starting and where element is ending. Other is XAML beautify XAML, so which allows you to, so if suppose I make any changes and if I save it, it automatically indents it properly. So I was talking about different emulators. So here you can see you have different options of emulators, different size of emulators. So go ahead and always test your applications for different emulators and different sized emulators. Okay. There is also a tool called as XAML Spy, which allows you to go ahead and see how actually your user interface is rendered on the device. So you have created a nice grid and you want to see how actually, if suppose there is a space between two items and you want to remove that space, or you want to see if suppose the user interface is taking too much time to load, so probably the template can be wrong. You might have added some elements which are not required. So you can find out those errors in XAML using XAML Spy. So it has an Express edition, I believe, which is free, so you can go ahead and download it, and it integrates with Visual Studio. So coming back to the tips, so these are the tips that I want to share with you. So quickly going through all the tips. So first, let me just quickly get to the first. Make sure that you have a good name for your application. Make sure it is unique, it is catchy, and it can get into heads of your users so that they won't forget it. Architect your application well. Plan the flow of pages. Design it on a paper or using a wireframing tools before actually touching Visual Studio, so it will help you to plan it properly. Keep everything simple. Don't just ask for all the information at the start itself. Make sure that you are just asking for the right information at the right time. User can always log on to a website and give you more information when required, right? But don't ask too much information at the beginning itself. Then we talked about building around a theme. Make sure that you have some sort of theme in your mind and build your application around that particular theme. Follow the design principles. There is a nice documentation on Microsoft site for both Windows and Windows Phone about these principles. Go ahead and read about it and make sure that you are following these principles in your applications while building the application. And don't just crash on me. Have integrate the different reporting tools, error reporting tools in your application. So whenever there is any error, you will get a mail or you get any notifications. You can go ahead and fix them and release updates. People love frequent updates. So whenever there is error, make sure that you fix it and deliver a new update to it. And at the last, listen to your feedback. So users will download your application and then they will give you feedback. Make sure that you listen to it and implement it in your applications. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, you can ask it in the link window, and I will be there to help you out. So if you were to follow me, I'm there on Twitter, so you can ask me questions over there as well. So I frequently tweet about related to Windows Phone community. If you have any questions, you can always send me to my email address, mayur.tendulkar@hotmail.com. And I also write frequent blog at my site, mayurtendulkar.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also, I'd just like to say this is Carrie from the MVP Mentor Program. Thank you very, very much, Mayur. I appreciate it. And if you also would like to reach us here at the MVP Mentor Program, you can at mvpmentor@microsoft.com.